Disneyland will never be completed, so long as there are these damn green walls in Tomorrowland. Sorry, just feeling a little bit snarky today. It's a slow week for construction. Hi guys, David here with Fresh Baked, and we've got some updates for you from around the Disneyland Resort. No, there are no updates on those walls at the Tomorrowland entrance, but they're in the pool for what gets announced at the summer's Parks panel at D23. Could be a new Tomorrowland, could be the People Mover, could be that they finally figured out whatever it is they need to figure out in order to take those walls down. But on a serious note, the only serious ongoing project right now is the one happening at the downtown Disney parking lot. Still not Disneyland Forward. In fact, I would say Disneyland Forward is closer to dead than it is even alive at this point, let alone in progress. As for the site, looks like they have most of the planners in the concrete phase, though those in the distance back here still are in the form stage. Whatever they were doing with the water lines that ran down the middle also looks to be complete, as the trenches have been covered over with dirt. And I expect by next week we'll see new concrete and maybe even the new trees. And that, I believe, is going to be the extent of this project, as we mentioned last week. But stay tuned. We'll be back here once more to see how they finish this thing up. Next, we're going to move on to something that is a little kind of actually interesting. Dare I say mysterious, which is, again, our favorite kind of topic here. A few weeks ago, we talked for a minute about the scrims that had appeared at the Big Thunder Trail tunnel. Seemed odd to have scrims there, and not just in one tunnel, but in both, which is doubly odd. But then we kind of left it at that, and I hadn't really thought about it, and then I came back to the scene to see what was new, and the picture got a little more clear, or perhaps a little more mysterious, depending on how you look at things. Take a ride on the Mark Twain, and you'll see the backside of those two tunnels. The first one here is the backside of this tunnel. And you may or may not be able to see some scaffolding through those trees. Impossible to say, though, what that scaffolding might be for. We'll keep going down the river to find the backside of this tunnel, and there we can see the scaffolding a little more clearly. Scaffolding and some kind of metal mesh covering. At first I thought it was just a regular plastic covering, which would be typical for a painting job. Like I thought it might be in this case, but it's not plastic. I don't think it is anyway. I had the wrong camera with me. I didn't have Grandpa, so zooming in post gets a little grainy. But I will say it's not plastic. Well, I suppose it could be plastic, but it's not a plastic sheet. It's some kind of other covering, some kind of mesh type covering. But the covering did make me think at first that it was just for paint, because the rocks, they do look a little faded with the naked eye. But if that were the case, why the weird covering instead of a regular plastic tarp? And if it's paint, what are they doing on the other side? Because you can't even see the rocks on the other side. If there even are any. Are there? I don't even know. The only people who can say for sure are actual cast who are standing, right in front of it, or people working on it. You can't see anything through those trees. Now, I'm not trying to get anyone excited about something really interesting, because certainly there is a less than zero chance that they do that. But what are they doing? And by the way, for those of you who are not familiar with this attraction, because yes, this is an actual extinct attraction. That track you see there, covered in overgrown grass and a giant boulder, that was once a functioning train track. It's what Big Thunder Mountain Railroad used to be. A train would take you around Frontierland, including where Big Thunder sits today, but also across the walkway and alongside the rivers of America. You'd go through this tunnel, out the other side, and then you'd head back toward Big Thunder, alongside the rivers of America, and then you'd go back into Big Thunder through this tunnel and over that lake. That's the tunnel that has me the most curious, because it's just about the least guest-facing thing you can find in the park. Yet there they are working on it for some reason. I'm fascinated. I'm going to come back with Grandpa next week to see if we can get a closer look. But that is really, really interesting. By the way, for about 1,000 weeks, I keep meaning to mention this wall up across the way from Big Thunder, but I keep forgetting. It's been up for a while, and it covers that small raised seating area next to the Mark Twain. Now, I was advised a while back that they were replacing all the wood features on the deck, which makes sense. It's been around for a while. However, I kind of think they forgot about it, because it has been literal months since this project began. But they don't seem at all close to finishing this. It's just been sitting there like that for a while. Shame too, because that's a unique, fun way to spend 30 minutes while you enjoy your lunch or a snack, assuming you can get a table. I think there was only 4 of them, if memory serves. But great nonetheless. Hopefully this video might trigger them to finish the job. On the other side of Big Thunder is Rancho del Zocalo. You may have seen our Insta post about this last week, but the left side of the Rancho serving area has been dedicated entirely to mobile order. And I hate this for some reason. Actually, I think I know why. I think it's because, well, one of the reasons anyway. I love that the left side was always something of a hack for me. Most guests, when they go to Rancho, would gravitate to the right side without realizing they could also order from the left, same exact food. So it was always a shorter wait for standby on the left. But that was kind of a recent thing because a few years ago, before that, they had split the menu. Do you guys remember this? The right side was just for tacos and burritos. Left side was where you got your enchilada or your grilled chicken. And then you got your taco salad and the desserts to the far left. But today, everything is ordered on the right side for standby, and mobile order pickups are on the left. And it really is. This is the other reason why I don't like this at all. It's just kind of a waste of a beautiful space here. There's, of the two halves, the right side is the less interesting, poorly themed side of the restaurant. The middle or left side is beautiful. It's a wonderfully designed space. I love taking the camera there to film this area because it's just so well done. It's so well themed. But now it's just a place for guests to simply pick up their mobile orders now. There are things like this. I hate progress, Like people say, hey, Disneyland's not a museum. This should be. They should preserve this, and they should let us enjoy it the way we were meant to. But no, now we're just picking up mobile. I don't enjoy this at all. In Fantasyland, the Matterhorn is set to close on August 8th. There is no announced return time, but we know it'll be at least until September 8th, which is as far into the future the park's calendar can see, and it does show it is still closed then. I don't think it's reason for concern, though. In fact, this reconciles with our previous reporting that Disney would be closing the Matterhorn periodically in order to work on structural challenges this pretty aged roller coaster has. On the inside, it's showing its age and needs more than a little bit of care, but they can't tear it down and rebuild it because of modern building codes. It just wouldn't fit in Fantasyland today. But it's safe to operate, so rather than do all the updates at once over an extended period of time, I believe what they're doing is closing it for a few weeks at a time, working on sections of the structure, then reopening the attraction for a while, and then repeating that process until the work is complete. So, up for 10 months maybe, down for 2, I don't know, something like that. At least that's how I understand it to be based on what I've been told in the past by those who know more about this than I do. So expect Matterhorn to be closed, I'm guessing a month or more, and then expect it to come back. You won't notice any difference. Let's go to ToonTown, where there is nothing to report, I'm sorry to say. A lot of you are asking for an update, but unfortunately, I have to wait for someone with a helicopter to take some photos, then send those to Mice Chat, who seem to be the ones getting them, which is what has happened in the past. I don't have my own helicopter. You can see a little bit from the Harbor Boulevard overpass. I have not been recently. This is old footage. But it's basically just the mountains along the back of the land. You can't see any of the actual construction from the Harbor Boulevard overpass. So we'll stay tuned. I did, though, see some hard hats over the wall at the entrance, so we know they're at least working. Nothing to report at Tarzans Treehouse either, other than a fan mentioning that you could hear crews a whooping and a hollering behind those scrims. So it does appear, 5 fresh baked bucks for anybody who can get that reference. So it does appear there was a whooping and a hollering. They appear back to work on the project, but still no word on what it will wind up actually being. These walls have popped up in Tomorrowland in front of the area. I don't know why. That movie cracks me up every single time. These walls have popped up in Tomorrowland in front of the area where the Buzz Lightyear and Star Tours Fast Pass kiosks were once kept. For the life of me, I can't remember what they had here since they took the kiosks out. Merchandise carts, I think. Bubble wands. As usual, I'll be interested to see what they're up to here because there was nothing there before. So why work on this? I don't know. But as usual, it's doubtful it'll be anything interesting, I'm afraid. New concrete. Encanto. And that's it, guys. That's it for this week. Stay tuned, though, because as mentioned, we'll be taking Grandpa out for that Big Thunder Trail tunnel business. Very interested to see what's going on there. Until then, follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked.
First, we're going to look at a panorama of the past, America's past. This is Frontierland, dedicated to the faith, courage, and ingenuity of the pioneers who blazed the trails across America to a new, unsettled land. Frontierland tells the story of a young and enterprising nation, and of a people moving westward by riverboat and keelboat, by stagecoach and covered wagon. Here, pioneer days and frontier ways are relived in the river towns and in the trading posts, in the wilderness forts and Indian villages. Just across from the steamboat landing lies Tom Sawyer's Island. Everybody loves to explore, and this is the place to do it. There are secret paths and winding trails, and mysterious hideaways, such as Injun Joe's Cave. You can climb to the lofty summit of Lookout Point, or sway your way across the old suspension bridge. Frontierland, the desert roads and trails lead to the western mining town of Rainbow Ridge. Deep in these hills are the beautiful Rainbow Caverns, which can be visited aboard one of these sturdy little mine trains. Rainbow Ridge is a frontier traffic center. Here, stagecoaches and Conestoga wagons arrive and depart just as they did in the days gone by. The younger pioneers, prospecting for pleasure, hit the desert trails on a mule train. In any mining town, gold is where you find it. Here's a desperate character trying to take it with a 6-gun instead of a shovel. While the villain heads for the last roundup, we'll head for cover in the gold mine. But we soon emerge again to begin a trip into the wide open spaces of the great American desert. To take care of desert traffic problems, there's a natural bridge, and it's just as efficient as the modern freeway. Only in Disneyland would a cactus try to thumb a ride. And this is nature's version of Heavy, Heavy Hangs Over Thy Head. But they're perfectly safe. Not one has ever been lost. Either a rock or a visitor. In the heart of the desert, the bubbling mud pots add a note of brilliant color. And atop the distant buttes, the Indian pueblos stand in silent tribute to the artistry of an ancient people. Today as yesterday, the rivers of Frontierland are teeming with traffic. Rafts carry passengers to and from Tom Sawyer's Island. And the proud queen of the river is the Mark Twain. The Mark Twain is old in history, but as new as her paint. She's the only one of her kind to be built in the last 60 years. In Frontierland, with a real Indian guide, you can paddle your own canoe. Or if you prefer, you can visit the frontier landings and see the sights aboard one of Mike Fink's keel boats. At every bend in the river, dramatic scenes from the pioneer days come into view. Here's a settler's cabin set afire by flaming arrows. But of course the Indians had their friendlier moments too. Wildlife was abundant in those early days. Here the American Indian lived out his primitive way of life. Here, stagecoaches wrote an American legend with their turning wheels. But there were some who resented this westward migration. Others were curious and noncommittal. A frontier landmark was the Wilderness Fort. It was both a trading post and a garrison that kept the peace and preserved the treaty with the Indians. To visit Frontierland and travel along its high roads and byroads is to relive in this modern day all the high adventure of the American pioneer. At Huck Finn's favorite fishing hole, the fish are real, and they really bite. What's more, you can keep all you catch. In winning the West, it was the railroads that clinched the victory and welded our country together with bands of steel. These two iron horses are exact replicas of the old-timers that spanned our continent a century ago. And so now it's all aboard for an adventure on the high iron. The Disneyland Railroad is a sightseer's dream, for it circles the entire perimeter of Disneyland. But we're going to stay aboard just long enough to catch another perspective of Frontierland.